Okay, guys, after some fun technical difficulties, I deleted the post, so you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But I've been trying to figure out how to work this thing for the last 30 minutes. Yahya, thank you for your patience, sir. So we are here to discuss the treatment of women, both in Islam and in Christianity. So we're gonna probably have two different approaches to this whole thing. Sorry, I've got people mowing behind me. We
It's
probably
all
have
right.
two different approaches to this whole thing, but we're just gonna have a good little discussion. Typically, Yahya and I have um, debate format style. We're going to try something a little bit different. Yahya doesn't like the debate format as much as I do, so we're going to do a little bit more just back and forth discussion type of stuff, and we'll see how it goes. So Yahya, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just kick it off.
Okay. As I always start, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, most compassionate, the only worthy of worship. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, protect you, and guide you, and enter all of us in His mercy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us fruitful with this conversation about treatment of women in Islam and Christianity. And I hope that we learn from each other and find a common ground for the sake of God, that we always use the truth so everybody know it. And please join our channel. My channel is Islam Defender Yahya. I have many video. I would like to invite everybody to see the content, and I would like you to as well join AT. We have debated before, and I enjoy debating the gentleman because he always doesn't interrupt, and we always find it interesting that we talk freely about everything uh, without any interruption, and we share mutual respect between us. And I hope everyone benefit from our discussion. Thank you very much.
I mean, as well. Thank you, brother. Kind of the direction that I wanted to start this out with is just kind of establishing some criteria first. Saying what is generally right, what is generally wrong, and then I think when we start to examine the Islamic teachings about how to treat women, and then we can start to examine the biblical teachings about how to treat women. I don't want us to like try to back around it, right? Work around it. I want us to say, look, at the very beginning, we said it's wrong to do this pretty much no matter what, right? So if the Bible says to do something that we both agree is wrong, then I think we need to just both agree that it's wrong. If the Quran or Islamic source says that it's okay to do something that we have both previously agreed is wrong, then I think that would be the most objective way to go into this criteria. What do you think about that, Yahya?
I agree, totally, I agree.
Okay, so I've got a couple of things that I was thinking about. So the first question I'd like to ask, I'll ask you, and then you can share, and I can kind of share what I think. When, if ever, is it okay to physically touch your wife against her will?
Uh, Actually, as we are equal to each other, it you never you need to treat your woman as equal partner and not a servant or a slave, and you cannot uh, touch her but with her pleasure, with her willingness, and it's not nice to force her into anything she doesn't like to do. And because you need to show her respect as she show you respect, and you are both are responsible to live with each other in a harmony and love and kindness. And this is the way I understand Quran teach,
Mhm.
that when it says وَعَاشِرُهُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that means treat them with kindness and love. And the Prophet, peace upon him, he commend his follower to and tell them, even if you are eating, if you even feeding your own wife with your own hand, you have reward. Even the best among you is the best for his family, and I am the best of my family. I don't want to make it long. It's enough
Okay.
like this.
So I would say there would be a very, very low reason to ever touch a woman um, against her will. I've thought of a couple of scenarios. One, she's trying to murder you with a knife or murder your children with a knife. I think you and I would both agree stopping her physically would be a good idea. She's getting ready to, fall off of a cliff or step into traffic. Those types of scenarios, I think, would be a good time to physically touch a woman. Times that I think are just objectively wrong is sexual advances towards a woman when she does not want them or is unconscious of them or is not of age. Or two, approaching a woman in the form of disciplining them or trying to correct them in some sort of moral form or fashion. Yeah, I don't want to pin you down too much here, but I'm not sure I'm not sure I understand exactly what you were kind of mentioning the Quran, but I'm not very clear on when you think it is right to touch a woman or not. I don't really want to get into what the Quran teaches yet. I just want to get into what you think is morally right.
The morally right is never to use any kind of violence against your wife, not physically, not emotionally, and you treat her as you wish to be treated. Because let's say we are human, and
Hmm.
if you are working with somebody and he is somehow abusing you physically or orally, you wouldn't you wouldn't agree. And the same apply to a woman. A woman physically is not as strong as a man. If the husband he somehow treating his woman with a degrading way, this is actually against the teaching of the prophet, because the prophet he said, I was sent to perfect the moral standard. So there was a moral, but the prophet peace upon him was sent to lift up the moral standard by bringing equality between men and women, between family, between society, to bring the best in us to live in harmony with each other.
Okay. And I'm very happy that you mentioned there are different kinds of abuse, right? So you didn't just say physical, there's emotional, psychological, verbal types of abuses. So I think those are some things to take into consideration. And I assume that you would condemn all of those forms of abuse, correct?
I do.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I think it's just good that we're defining some of those terms. That was actually literally my next question that I wanted to bring up. Let me see what other questions I have as my baby screams in the background. Um, dun, dun, dun. You know what? Let's just jump in. Let's just jump into it. You mind if I kind of start with a question?
Uh, I don't have any question now, because
Okay.
I was expected, to be honest, I was expecting you to, as usual, because you already always prepare something
Hmm.
and you say it, then I listen to it, then I respond. But if you like me to introduce how Quran and how Islam teach us about the Islam, about the women,
Yeah.
I'm ready, because
Oh
I
no,
have some
I've got
references
some
over here.
questions and we can talk about it. So
Okay.
the first thing I hear a lot of times from Muslims is that Muhammad brought a lot of dignity and respect to women previously, when they, the culture before them did not bring them respect and dignity. But I find it a little bit confusing when I read the story about Khadijah, right? She was a very successful businesswoman,
Yes.
And in fact, I was reading one thing earlier today that said that the amount of caravan trade and all that kind of stuff she had was more than her whole tribe combined. So
Okay.
as a woman, she was a successful business owner, leader of her community,
Okay.
and I think that's very interesting. Um, so Muhammad married her and all that kind of stuff, and she actually proposed to him. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it sounds like she had a lot of power and dignity already. And then later, as Islam starts to get established, there's a hadith where Aisha says that I have not seen any women suffering as much as a believing woman. Um,
Okay.
so my question about that, there's kind of twofold question. I don't want to give you too many at once, and I can recover them if you forgot some of them. So Aisha says, I have not seen anyone suffering as much as a believing woman. What other women were around at the time that she could compare them to?
Uh, Let me start fresh with Khadija. Khadija, the prophet, before he became prophet at the age of 40, he was around 25, and he used to be a shepherd, and he used to be well known. Muhammad about he is trustworthy,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked for Khadija, and she sent him a kind of like a trader for her on her herds of and he was successful, and with him she had a servant who go alongside the prophet, and he when he come he was impressed how well behaved the prophet, and how much he bring a good with the trade
Mm-hmm.
he bring back, and he realized as well there was always this small kind of cloud shedding him wherever he goes, and as he was blessed, and Khadija was actually she was very impressed with him, and by the way she was widow, and she have two marriages before, and she was around 40 years when he was 25.
Mm-hmm.
She proposed for him to marry her because of his characteristic, and that was it. Regarding our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, when she narrated almost 2000, over 2,500 hadith, and she was saying that women, the believer women, they because Islam was established by Prophet Muhammad, and they were go into more struggle than the men, because the men sometimes they go and fight them, but the women they are left to look after sometimes when their husband die, they look after the children, they look after everyone, and they suffer. And Prophet Muhammad, even Aisha, she used to feel jealous, and she once she said like I am like she is better than Khadija, and the Prophet peace upon him wasn't pleased with her. He told her that Khadija, she believed in me when everyone will reject me. She support me with her wealth, with her emotion, with her everything, and that show how much loyal was the Prophet to his Khadija, his first wife, and beside she gave him most of his children, except Maria Al-Qibtiyya, which she gave him Ibrahim later on. So all his children, the Prophet peace upon him, were from Khadija, the mother of the believer. And Aisha radiallahu anha, she was the only virgin the Prophet peace upon him had married her. And during the life of Khadija, the Prophet peace upon him never ever married or betrayed or do anything to harm the feeling of Khadija. But even after her death, whenever he see any of her friend, he used to always be very kind with them and treat them, with honor.
Okay, thank you for the speech, Yahya. I don't think that answered my question. So what I was showing you was I was showing you how Khadijah had a lot of freedom. She had power. She had leadership, and she
Yes,
even had the ability to ask Muhammad to marry her. Now it's great. I read the story about Muhammad. He was honorable, trustworthy. Went to Syria. She actually paid him double, and he made her double. Right. So
yes,
that's a great part of the story. It does not answer the question about the treatment of women before Islam, and it does not answer the
uh,
question about how
okay,
Aisha said that she has not seen a woman suffering as much as the believing women. So I assume that Aisha had witnessed Christian women and their treatment and their suffering, Jewish women and their treatment and their suffering, and the various different pagan women and their treatment and their suffering. And I find it hard to understand how Aisha can say I've not seen one suffering as much as the believing woman, and at the same time say Islam brought more dignity to women. I don't see
okay.
how those two things jive. So I would like an answer to that particular question.
Women before Islam, at the time of Jahiliyyah, was some of them who have wealth and who belongs to rich, powerful tribe. They were respected,
Hmm.
but no, normal women were abused, were degraded, were even because of alcohol usage. Sometimes people used to gamble against their family, and they used to even bury their children because they feel when they have a girl, female, it will bring disgrace. And it was an awful way. Women, they don't have the right of inheritance. They don't have the right of anything. And as you know, man usually he's the dominant along. So women was disregarded regarding everything. So the male was the dominant till Islam and Prophet came with the law of inheritance and law of equality between men and women, and this is the way I understand it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I've got other questions for you, but if you would like to bring up
Thank
a
you.
topic briefly to keep it fair, I'd be happy to answer one of your questions.
Uh, can you tell me how the same question you pose against me? Tell me about how at the Christian time or at the time of Christ, how women was treated.
So Paul put it in Galatians. Basically, there's no woman, male, slave, free, Jew, Greek, Gentile. We are all one in Christ Jesus. And one of the most um, common known facts about Christianity and one of the most commonly held beliefs among Christians is that all people are created in the image of God, not just men, also women. So we should both be treated in that exact same way.
Okay, let me tell you what Paul teach actually. Paul, as I remember, he teach that women, he considers them without head even, while the Quran regarding women as witnesses, they are two. Uh, uh, Paul, he said, the head of a woman
Mhm.
is her husband, and her husband, his head is Christ. So even he considered women even without head, and he told them they don't have the right over any man, and they should be submissive and quiet, and they don't have authority over men. Moreover, the Bible actually, if you look at the Old Testament, actually degrade women in a big way. I'm going to give you some reference. You can write it down. You don't have. We don't have to go through it, but uh, like the divorce law and the Old Testament, you can read in Deuteronomy 24, 24 verse number 1,
Hey,
Samuel.
Yahya,
Yeah,
why don't you hold that thought because I think you're going in two different directions. So let me address the Paul situation, and then you can ask me about
okay,
the Deuteronomy. Does that sound
okay.
fair to you?
Let me give you the reference of the teaching of Paul in a quick way, submissive and quiet. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse number 11 and 15. Uh, Silent and Church, 1 Corinthians 11, verse number 3. Colossians 3, verse number 18. You have Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 and 22 till 24, and Numbers. I guess it's enough. This one. I have two Chronicles 15:3 as well, to put to death whoever anyway go against the Lord.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right, thank you. So the Corinthians letters, as you're probably aware, Yahya, is the letters are written to specific churches at specific times, addressing specific issues. So when Paul's talking about women staying silent and things like that in the church, if
Mm,
you read in the context above that, he's talking about people who are filled with the Spirit and how the church has just gone into chaos and people are running around talking in tongues. No one's speaking in turns. It's complete and utter madness. So
okay,
Paul is addressing that particular issue. Um,
okay.
when we read the Bible, we want to pay attention to the overall holistic context and the overall teaching of what it is that Paul is saying. Would you agree that's fair criteria?
Uh, okay, okay.
Okay.
I don't see only Paul regarding teaching regarding women is the whole issue, because as I mentioned Deuteronomy, I can mention as well.
Well, let's finish up Paul first. So let's hit that, and then let's not jump all over the place.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Regarding Paul, I told you how he teach that women they should be only submissive and obedient, and they are not allowed to have authority over men. Well, where in
Paul
Islam,
addresses in his letters leaders of churches as
okay,
who are women, right? So no matter how you want to read into it, the fact of the matter is that there are women leaders in the church that Paul is addressing, right, and giving I won't say glory to, but giving praise to, saying they are doing a very good job. So
okay,
that's part of it. The other part of it is a woman being submissive, and that Christ that the man is the head of the woman, and the woman and the head of a man is Christ. You're
yes,
also taking that a little bit out of context because Paul also says that a man should serve the woman and that a man should be like Christ to his wife. What did Christ
so
do from a Christian perspective? I know you're not necessarily going to agree with this from an Islamic perspective, but I want you to think about this. From the Christian perspective, Christ came to suffer and die and pay for the sins of mankind. He came to serve
okay,
them. There's a scene in the Gospel of John where he washes his disciples' feet, and he says in other places, whoever wants to be the greatest must be the least. So
okay,
if you are saying that men are supposed to, be the head of, yes, they are. They're supposed to be the head of the woman in the fact that they resemble Christ. They're Christ to their wives and they serve them and they lift them up.
okay. Regarding Christ and the treatment of women, uh, how do you see it when I mentioned that a couple of times, because I see that Christ was kind with only the Jew who he called them children, why he looked down on other women whom they are not non-Jew. And it's in Matthew 15, 22, 28, exactly verse number 26, when he tried to avoid the Canaanian woman, and many times he tried to ask his companion to push her away. Then when she asked him, he said, it's not right to give to toss the food of the children to the dogs, and she accepts that she is considered like a dog, and she told him even the dog eats the crumple of their masters. Another
All right,
issue with
let's let one at a time. Let one at a
one
time.
second,
Yeah,
one second,
yeah.
one second. No, it's very quick. You can read that when Jesus, peace upon him, come into on a kind of mountain, and there was a whale for a drink, and he asked her for a drink, and she find it that a Jew talking to her. That means even when his companion find him talking to the woman and she wasn't a Jew, they find it very strange, because it seems that they used to look down in a racist way against other than Jew.
Correct. Right. So Jesus teaches in parables. You understand that, right? He uses metaphors, figurative language, allegory. He even actually acts out these parables as well. He doesn't just verbally say them. He acts out these parables. Um,
Okay.
and so you're actually onto the right path. The Jewish people at the time, the Judeans, right, looked bad
Yeah.
at the Samaritans and the Gentiles,
Yeah.
and they were somewhat racist against them, right? We are God's, like the beginning of the gospel is the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin and the scribes and all those people are you know are saying, oh, we're better than everybody else because we're Jewish, we're God's chosen people. And John the Baptist speaks out against that. Jesus speaks out against that. And so what Jesus is doing when he's talking to that woman, who understands what he's doing, by the way, is he's acting out that reference. And then when he finishes talking to her, do you remember what he says, Yahya? I've not seen a
Uh,
faith like this in all of Israel. He gives her praise.
uh,
And she came to him, right, in worship and trusted him and in faith, and he healed her. So
he
there's
healed her daughter. He healed her daughter. I
correct.
agree. I agree. After she accepted what he called her, but you yourself, do you agree that Jesus has treated non-Jew women as dogs to satisfy the children look at the other race, and he shouldn't have done that, because that it degrade him, and in my view, because the Bible present him as like a racist against other. Beside when he came,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I don't. That does not
just one
follow.
second.
But that
Let
doesn't
me finish.
follow.
What's follow, because he said he come only to the Jew during his 3 years ministry, and he wasn't willing to treat other uh, equally like he treats the Jew. So he considers the Jew children, and he consider other like dogs, swine, and slave to the children, to the Jew. Do you agree? Do you accept this kind of treatment as Jesus? You consider him as God, the creator of a human being, to treat is only the Jew as the children and non-Jew as equal to dogs?
You're
Do
gonna
you
have
do
to
you agree?
demonstrate that he actually treated them like dogs. You've not demonstrated that. The Bible does not demonstrate that. You're taking
What
it
about
halfway into context, you're drawing conclusions, and you're not following it all the way through. I helped you follow it all the way through. You can feel free to disagree with me about it, Yahya, but it's been laid out there, it's been presented to you that he healed her, he explained it to her, she understood what he was saying, and he brought her dignity. I don't understand how
I
you draw that
agree.
conclusion.
I agree that when she surprised him by accepting she is lower than than the Jew, and she's like equal to a dog. He was surprised and respond to her positive after the negative he called her, and he grant her wish because he find that she trust him as she knew that he is the Messiah. Something else in Matthew 7:6, Jesus talking by parable to the Jew. So don't throw your pearls to the dogs and to the swine. And this is what I find it ought to accept Jesus as a prophet when I read this, because if he is a prophet of God, and where the Bible is degrading him as a racist, to be honest, it hurt me as a person, as a Muslim, because according to my Quran elevate his state, and he is one of the mightiest prophet who came as the word of God and spirit of God. You see how I see it?
I
I
do see
hope
how you see it, Yahya, but it's very confusing to me how you don't see the entire context. I've
okay.
laid it
I
out
will
to
try to
you.
see it. I will try.
Try to see it in the context. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
it's actually very beautiful. It's a very beautiful story.
okay.
And I think, and we all have presuppositions and confirmation bias. Are you familiar with what those two terms mean?
What you need to do to understand my point, you need to be neutral and to look at it from outside
Yeah,
and
yeah. Do you know where
without.
I came from? Do you think I've been Christian my whole life?
I don't know.
I've not been. I've not been Christian for
Fair,
that long. So
fair enough.
I've
I
come
hope
from a
as well you,
yeah.
reflect upon my position, how I see things, because as I said, the Bible uh, uh, is said in me that it degrades Jesus as what I mentioned, and I hope you take in the positive that at the end he heal her daughter and he respond to her. But for me, during these 3 years, he wasn't willing to look an equal term to the women of non-Jew. Okay, fair enough. We go somewhere
There's
else.
this. Like, do you know the story of the Samaritan woman at the well who had 5 or 7 husbands or something like that?
Uh, briefly,
Okay,
briefly.
that's a Samaritan. It's a woman. It's a
Yeah,
Samaritan woman, which is like the
yeah,
arch enemy, the arch nemesis of Christianity, or not of Christianity, but of the Jewish people at that time. He
yeah.
even gives a parable about the Good Samaritan, which would have been crazy at the time, right? Because you have all these Jewish people coming in and walking past the beaten and nearly dead person.
Okay.
And then he says, but a Samaritan man who's the enemy of the Jewish people sees a Jewish person, nearly dead in a ditch and comes and gives him the thing. Who is the most righteous of all of these people?
I
It's the
agree with you.
Samaritans. So you're
I
taking
agree with
things
you.
out of context, buddy. Like
Okay, fair enough.
that's all I'm gonna say.
Fair
So
enough.
so let's move on a little bit. So what we have done is we have established that laying hands on a woman against her permission, right? Not saving her life or defending your own life,
Yeah.
is wrong no matter what, whether it's sexually or violently, or even in intimidation. So there's actually a legal term of assault, which means that you don't actually have to strike the person, you don't have to actually cause harm to them, but they feel that intimidation and that fear, and in the court of law, if they can prove that, as the perpetrator, someone doing that, you are guilty of a crime. You're guilty of assault. So everybody knows this. Yahya, I'm sure you were prepared to deal with this question. When I read 434 in the Quran, I find it to be very appalling, to be quite frank with you. So I'll just read it out loud for you, if that's all right.
Uh,
So it says, men are the managers of the affairs of women, for that God has preferred in bounty one of them over another. And for that they have expended of their property. Righteous women are therefore obedient, guarding in secret for God's guarding. And those you fear may be rebellious, admonish them, banish them to their couches, and beat them. And if they obey you, look not for any way against them. God is all high, all great. So I've got a couple of things I'd like to add to that. So a couple of things that I found.
Just once again, you read 434. I am right?
Yes, 434. Yes, sir.
Okay. Please write down those references because I would like you to reflect upon it as well because it continues to 434. Write down, please. 4 verse number 5, 4 verse number 15, 4 verse number 19, 4 number 23, and 4 number 124. Then you have uh, chapter 33,
All right. Yeah, yeah,
verse
that's
number.
enough. That's enough. That's enough.
No, no,
So
because
what's your point?
it
What's your
is all.
point?
My point is, before you reached 434, I already give you a few verses belongs to the same chapter, talking how to treat women and how to deal with women and how to honor women and how to give them the right and how not you don't have the right to take their belonging, you don't have the right to kick them out from their own house even if you divorce them, and all of this is to preserve their right before you reach the stage of beating them, because this is what you after. If I'm wrong in my assumption, please correct me. Uh, uh, I have I have two examples to give it to you. I have a friend I have a friend who work with me. He is married for a woman for 31 years. He have two children. After 31 years, he find out that his wife betrayed him and she ran away with her lover. I have somebody who servant of Christ by the name of Sam Shamon. He have two daughters, and his wife
All right.
left him for Puerto Rican men.
All right,
And
dude. Yeah,
you
yeah.
telling me about
Yeah, yeah.
beating women?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you're making you're committing a fallacy here.
Fair
So
enough. Correct me.
the the fallacy is, first of all, you're attacking, you're doing ad hominem, right? You're attacking personal character of someone who's not involved in this conversation, of a couple people who are not involved in this conversation. And
I
two, if they act outside of what their scripture says, what have they
Okay.
done? They've committed sin.
They committed adultery, and what adultery
For
punishment
sin,
according to
which is
the
a sin.
Bible?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. What adultery according to the Bible? What the punishment of adultery?
It depends on if we're talking before Christ fulfilled the old prophecy or after.
I will remind you that Jesus, peace upon him, when he came under the law of Moses
He
and
did,
obedient to the law,
to fulfill the
because
law, which he
hold on one
did
second, hold
when
on
he
one
said
second,
it is
hold on
finished
one
on
second,
the
hold,
cross.
hold on one second. Let me remind you, Jesus said, "Do not think I come to abolish
Abolish
or
the law,
destroy, but to
but I came
fulfill."
to fulfill.
Fulfill, that means keep the commandment of God and abide by it. And
Yes,
whoever,
until,
yeah,
right? All is accomplished.
uh, when you say all is accomplished, okay, let's say, let me agree with you. Let me agree with you. So Jesus, as you claim, died for the sin of all mankind. So those people who are calling themselves Christian and they are committing adultery and they still believe in Christ, is it fair that they will be saved by the blood of Christ while they are committing adultery against their
Is it
own
fair
husband?
that anyone is saved by the blood of Christ? Yeah, yeah.
No, it's not fair because
Okay, so
according
when you
to you,
receive a
there's
gift that
only.
you didn't
Uh,
earn, what's that called?
let
Grace.
me answer you. Uh, According to your doctrine, the only one who will be saved by the blood of Christ, who accept the death of the innocent man on the cross for the sake of the sinner. And they are few because the Jews they don't, we are Muslim we don't. So is it fair that only a small part of a human being will be admitted into paradise, while the rest, even if they are not committing adultery or big sin, that they will go to hell?
So, yeah. First of all,
Yeah.
we're off topic a little bit, a
Okay,
lot of
man. Sorry.
bit. I
Okay.
would love to debate you on this topic. You and I have had a personal conversation about justice and mercy and that whole
We will
thing.
do it. We will do it.
I think it would be a really cool and productive
Okay.
conversation,
Okay.
and you'll be
Okay.
Christian soon after that. Um,
Okay. Let's come back to the topic.
okay, so I don't even remember how we got to the fulfill aspect of it, but anyway,
You mentioned chapter 4, verse number 34, and I give you some reference
yep.
in
Yes,
the same
you asked
chapter.
it if the punishment for adultery, right, in the Old Testament before Jesus fulfilled the law. So just do me a favor, grant that argument because that's what
Okay.
Christians believe. That's what we
Okay.
believe.
Okay.
Um, and that so the punishment for adultery, what everyone deserves when they're committed adultery, is to be stoned to death.
Okay.
Right? That is what everyone deserves. That's the punishment that crime, right? The punishment should match the crime. That's what that crime ought to deserve.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Fair enough. What my question was to you, if a Christian woman living with her husband, let's say for 31 years, then she committed adultery and she ran away from her husband, which he was treating her very well. What is her punishment after the fulfillment of the law? If she will be saved by the blood of Christ, or she will be punished and hell? This is my question.
Right. So you're asking me, a mortal man, to be able to tell you what decision God would make, which I cannot do.
Ah,
But I will speculate. I will answer
okay,
your question through speculation. There's a couple of different ways that this can go. Okay. So one, many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, cast out demons in your name, blah, blah. And I will say, depart
okay.
from me, you workers of lawlessness, for I never knew you. Okay?
A work of lawlessness. That
Yes,
means they are not abide by the law.
they are not
Which law he's
abiding
talking
by the
about?
law. Correct. Yeah, yeah. You and I actually agree on this a little bit. We're going to disagree in the long run, but we're going to agree on this little part here. Um, So, what gets someone saved? Yes, the blood of Christ saves someone. Yes, true repentance also saves someone. When someone accepts Christ, the Holy Spirit lives within them. It casts out bad, evil things that we do, throws them into the fire, is the metaphor that Jesus uses. And we become workers of righteousness and not workers of lawlessness. Okay? So if I do all righteous things and I'm only doing it for selfish gain and I hate God the whole time I'm doing it, am I getting into heaven? No.
Okay.
Right? If I love
Uh,
God and I'm doing it out of a stance of love, do I get into heaven? And I ask for forgiveness and repentance? The answer is yes. Okay? So
okay.
if that woman truly loved Jesus and she truly made a mistake and truly repented of her mistake, and only God knows, she is forgiven.
Okay. But still, she have let her family down, let her husband down,
Yeah.
and she ran away with another man. Even if she repent, she still committing adultery
Yep.
because
And her family is
according
paying for her sin,
because
by the way.
by the way, according to the Bible, if a man marry a divorcee woman, he is committed adultery, if I'm not wrong. And this is leave no option for the women to be remarried again and have their honor. So what do you expect from a woman to do? Follow her desire and lust, or remarried again? And this is, I find it odd in Christianity that when a man and a woman get married, they have no solution if they come to a wall and they cannot live with themselves anymore.
Do you understand what
So
marriage is a representation of, Yahya, in
the marriage
Christianity?
is, yeah, yes, marriage is representation of a contract between a man and a woman in front of God, and it's till death.
It's a
But
representation of Christ marrying the church,
fair enough.
and how God has married his people, the Israelites, and now the entire world. And how, and there's I can't remember, it's Hosea, I think it's Hosea, um, where he marries a prostitute and she continues to turn away and turn away and turn away and turn away. And God says, stay married to her, stay married to her, stay married to her, because this is what I'm doing for you. The man, God, Christ, comes to earth and married to us despite the fact that we keep turning away. We sin, we commit adultery, we commit idolatry, we steal, we kill, whatever it is. He's still married to us. We're not holding up the end of our contract, but he wants us to he holds up the end of his contract and his bargain because he keeps all of his promises. So the reason why marriage is so sacred and the reason why you want to stay into it is because it is a representation of the love that Christ has for the world.
Okay, okay.
So one thing I wanted
Uh,
to get to, you've been coming at me lately, buddy. I gotta go. I gotta come back at you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Come back and tell me
Um,
what do you have?
So
Tell
I
me.
wish I could figure out how to share a screen on here. I don't know if I can or can't. Let me try this really quick. Because
Don't
I
spoil it.
say what?
Don't spoil it. Share it because I can see you on my screen.
Oh, I know I'm beautiful too, yeah, but I'm gonna try to share the screen anyway.
Okay. Uh,
All right, let's see here. I'm gonna make this huge. Can you see this? Okay, yeah. You can't see it at all, can you?
I can see only you,
Only
and
me. All right, all right.
it's enough for me to see you because I'm pleased to see you as well. You know, I like you as a person. You are very gentleman, and I like to talk to you because I hope I hope one day in the future we meet face to face and we talk.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that'd be cool. All right,
uh,
so I want to bring something up, right? So we've already
okay,
established hitting a woman is wrong. You know what? We never finished 434, so I'm going to get into that because I don't want to get around it. So, okay, so for chapter 4, verse 5, 15, 19, 23. I think those were the ones you gave before. Those all come before 434, right? So that means 434 is like the crescendo. It's the end. It's the collaboration of if your woman is good, you're good to them, blah 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 blah. But here are the reasons why you should discipline your wife. So if you fear disobedience from your wife, admonish them. I take that as yell at them, right? Yell, you're doing the wrong thing, you're going to hell, whatever it is, right? You offer correction. You banish them to your couches. Okay? All of these things, by the way, are forms of abuse. Verbal abuse, banishing them is known as what's the word? I'm trying to think about the word for it. You're ignoring them. I literally wrote this word down. It's escaping me. Isolation. You're withholding. That's a form of abuse. Is withholding. Okay. And beat them. Okay. That's physical. Now I know you're gonna say the tafsir and blah blah. You hit them lightly with the toothbrush, but I'm gonna say, do they want you to? Are they inviting you to physically hit them in any way, harmful, gentle? That's assault.
okay. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. Uh, what would you do if you realize that your wife she is about to go in the wrong way and you don't want her to spoil the marriage and you want to preserve your children and your marriage and your whole life? Would you, by the way, when I mentioned Sam Shamoun himself, he the one who put the video and he explained how his wife left him and ran away with Puerto Rican man and he have two children with her. What would you do in case you are servant of Christ? like Sam Shamoun doing, and suddenly you find your women are cheating on you. You stay with her, you correct her, or you let her to her own desire. What would you do?
Uh,
This is my question.
are you suggesting that you hit her? Do you think that's a viable option, Yahya?
Before hitting her, even if I accept hitting her,
Do you
be,
believe that women are intelligent as men so that you can have a conversation with them and explain to them what they're doing and
and
ask them to stop?
this is exactly what Quran talk about.
Okay,
You
the Quran
first,
also
you
says that
for
women are half
stop,
intelligent
stop,
as
stop.
man, but let's go on.
Let me give you what the Quran give as a procedure to deal with the woman who might be going away and going to destroy your marriage. First, you talk to her, you advise her, you stay away.
Where does it say that,
Please, please,
Yahya? But
I
where
will
does
give
it
you.
say that?
I will give you the reference. I will give you the reference. Then you stay away from her bed. That means you leave her. Somehow it degrading for her not to sleep with her because as is kind of punishment, and as you say, it might be mental things against her. Then if you kept on doing what she's doing, the Quran teach that you bring a judge from her family and judge from your family. Then they try to incline to agreement between all of them. And if she kept on doing what she's doing, as you mentioned, when you hit, if you hit the child 7 years old, like running into the street, and car are passing by, you hit him on the head. That means be careful what you're doing because you're going to be harmed. So the hit of a woman is similar, and the Prophet he teach that you hit your woman as with the miswak, like hit her to. It's not going to break her hand, but to make her aware of what she's doing. Beside, the Prophet peace upon him teach that the Muslim at his time they used to abuse their women and hit them, and at night they sleep to them, and he told them how shameful of you treating your women like boxing bag, then you go and sleep with them at the end of the night, and this is not nice. And this is what I'm saying. I'm saying let's
So just beat them, but
follow
don't
the
sleep with them
logic.
that night. Is that what you're saying? So
I'm saying the Prophet he forbid people to do such evil, wicked abuse to women
okay,
and
so what
reject
if let me
violence.
ask you
And
this, Yahya.
this is what I'm trying to pass to you. And you have only beat them as the Quran, and you just pick up on it. Do you want me to give you?
I
Uh,
asked you at the very beginning to define when
I
was it a
I
good
already did.
time to lay a hands on a woman against her will. I asked you at the beginning, and you essentially said never. And now you're
Yeah.
making excuses for why and how. Well, you can. It's a it's against their will.
Okay.
They're not they're not
If the
7 year old
okay.
children. Yeah, yeah. Please let me finish. They're not 7 year
Okay.
old children. There's a
Okay.
difference between a woman and a
Adult. Yeah.
7 year old child. Now, don't get me
Okay.
started on Aisha, but
Okay.
at the same time, there's another narration of Muhammad's farewell sermon where he says women treat women well like domesticated animals. So we're comparing them to children and domesticated animals.
Uh,
None of these
uh,
two things
the, let me
are
correct you.
good. And
Let me correct you.
please
Let me
correct me.
correct you. The Prophet peace upon him never said to treat women as do domesticated animals,
Not
and
according to Ibn Ashaq.
the Quran itself mentions that male and female are equal in the eye of God, and the Prophet peace upon him, as I mentioned before,
Where does it
his
say they're equal? Do
Aisha
you know the
Aisha his wife. Aisha, his wife, she said he was like a Quran walking, and he never hit with his hand, nor servant, nor a slave, nor a woman, nor a man, except when he is in the battle. In the battle, he used to defend and defend himself and attack. But please, I ask you a question. Can you please respond to it? What would you do if you realize that your women, whom your children you have with her, she looking out and going uh, going in a wicked way for somebody else, betraying you? What would you do? So you talk to her and you leave her for her desire. You don't talk to her and you be kind with her and treat her normally.
She's a grown woman.
Yeah.
She's a child of God.
Okay.
I will communicate to her
Okay.
using my words and
Okay.
whatever amount of passion is required for it. I'm not going to be like,
Okay.
"Oh, I'm super happy that you're seeing someone else."
Okay.
It's going to be passionate. Um, but I would never, ever strike her. And if I did, Yahya, I would be condemned before God because that is wrong of me.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't have anything to say about, because even beaten, I explain beaten like you. It's just you are drawing her attention. I'm not saying beat her, that you give her a box and her eyes, and her eye will be swollen for 3 days.
At the
Then you find
beginning
her
of
at
this, you
home.
said touch them, period, against their will. I
Maybe,
defined those terms at the
maybe
beginning for this very purpose, Yahya, so we could bring it
I
back.
I cannot explain more. If you find me hypocrite, forgive me. But this is the way I understand through the hadith and through the Quran. And I read so much, and I done maybe one or two video on my channel. I would like you to see
Yeah, I
how
watched
I
it.
explain it.
I
Thank
had
you
a
very much.
terrible conversation with somebody on there, by the way. They were terrible people. Anyway, it wasn't you. It wasn't. I can't remember who it was. Um, all right. So you mentioned that Muhammad had never laid hands on anyone except for in battle. Is that? Do you stand by that statement?
This is what I said. Yeah.
Okay. So Sahih Muslim number 974 talks about how Muhammad struck Aisha in the chest, which caused her pain.
Okay.
Do you know that story?
I heard about it.
Okay, so do you accept Sahih Muslim or just some of them or the ones you like, the ones you,
Uh,
or all of
I,
them?
I, I have actually, I have reference of two hadiths, one for Bukhari and one for Muslim. Uh, and I have this hadith, but I don't have the number of it, that
Okay.
the Prophet never raised and hit no one, servant, wife, or anyone. And Bukhari 6352 and Muslim 1628,
Mm-hmm.
that to feed your woman in her own mouth, that you will be rewarded. And the Prophet even said, even when you sleep with your woman, don't you just reach your climax and leave her like this. So you stay with her till as well, because you're treating her as equal, and not only take advantage of your own desire, and you reach your climax and you leave her behind, and this kind of stuff. Uh, Regarding, I would like to mention chapter 65, verse number 6, where it says, provide them with resident as yourself, and do not hurt them and make it difficult for them if they are pregnant, and spend over them till they deliver. And even if they breastfeed your own children, you pay them as you are responsible for your own children. And this is what the Quran teach.
It teaches both things apparently, but the verse you're talking about in chapter 65 is in reference to a pregnant woman. The one in chapter 4 that we're talking
This is
about.
chapter talaq, chapter divorce, and the chapter of Nisa, chapter 4. Both of them, you can. pick up verses from here, and I collect all of them. That's why I was
No, I appreciate
giving you
it.
the reference.
I'm pointing out to you that there's either a contradiction, or B, it's not a contradiction because there's a special pleading case for pregnant women. Because the
Okay,
verse you just
okay,
read to me was talking about pregnant women. It wasn't just talking about all women in general. Verse
okay,
434 is talking about all women in general, which then, if I were a Muslim making the argument, I would say, but it doesn't apply to pregnant women.
okay. Shall we have a look about what the Bible teach regarding the killing and the baby and ripping open the women belly? Hosea 13, chapter 13, verse number 16, and Samuel chapter 15, number 3, where Jesus as God, before he incarnate in a human form, if you believe that Jesus was the one who are given the law, this is what it says. Killing of women and dash little baby against rock in front of their women, and uh, uh, pregnant women ribs up open, and what kind of law is that? And regarding divorce and the Old Testament, Deuteronomy 24:1. I would like you to read it because if a man marry a woman, then she didn't please him, he would have the right to kick her out of his house, and so if somebody else marry her again, if she didn't please him and be submissive, and she is kind of merchandise, he can kick her out of his home anytime. Then what's going on again with Leviticus 27, verse number 3 and 7. Look at women value comparing with men. The women worth half the men. The girl, they worth half the child. This is Leviticus 27,
How are they?
verse.
Okay.
You read it in your own time. Chapter 27, verse number 3 and verse number 4, number 7. Uh, and Jeremiah 51, verse number 20 and 26.
Yeah, yeah,
Old men.
you're like, this is way too much for me to to take in. So let's go a little bit slower on it.
I'm giving you a reference of the law that your God gave before he became a man, like
I
Isaiah.
understand what you're doing. I'm just telling you that you're giving me more verses than I'm going to be able to respond to because I don't have that kind of memory.
Fair enough. Let's compare it. You give me one about beating. I'm giving you many about killing women, about ripping open the pregnant women, about children dashing on the ground, about Isaiah 13, 15, 18, Isaiah chapter 13, verse 15, 18, about how to rape women and baby killing. And I have a list. I have a list.
I understand you have
You
a
know,
list. I don't have that list. So one at a time,
check it,
Yahya.
check it. You don't have,
I
but
don't have a photographic memory either. All right. So the one thing I was pulling up because I wasn't familiar with this particular passage, right? So you're talking about Leviticus 27. Is that correct? Okay.
yes, I
So they're
mentioned
talking about the
Leviticus 27.
valuation of people and why they're valuing them in a particular way, right? Male from 20 years old up to 60 shall be worth 50 shekels of silver according to the shekel sanctuary. If the person is a female, the valuation would be 30 shekels. The person is from 5 years up to 20 years old, the valuation of the male is 20 shekels, female 10 shekels. Why? What? How are they valued differently, Yahya? What are their job tasks?
No, no. Do you accept that your own God, He's valuing men and women according if they die or they want to be sold and not equal way? Let's forget about everything. Let's talk about our modern life now. Do you like to do so?
I'd like to stay on a topic, but
It's in the topic. It's in the
okay,
topic.
okay.
What I would like to mention, you know, European Institute for Crime Statistic on Crime and Justice. Uh, they make a comparison between Muslim country and non-Muslim country. And what does it say? For example, regarding the murder rate in Saudi Arabia and USA. And Saudi Arabia is zero point 0.9, while it is 5 in USA. The crime level 23.4 in Arabia is 55.84 in United States. The violence in Saudi Arabia is
How is this relevant to
1.04.
women? Keep this relevant to women, please, Yahya.
This is all. It's all regarding women. This is all
Well, no, you're just
violence.
saying violence in general. Yahya. You're not saying anything else. You're just saying violence in general, crime in general.
Yeah, yeah,
What does
but
this have to do with women?
yeah,
That's my question.
yeah. This is about what I put. It's about violence against women and our modern life. And I'm gonna say it again. European Institute for Crime Statistic on Crime and Justice. Muslim country, the murder against women 2.4 a year. Non-Muslim countries 7.5 a year.
Are we
This
talking
is,
about percent?
yeah,
Okay,
percentage, yeah.
thank you.
Uh, regarding the hadith you asked about, the reference is Sahih Muslim 2328, that the Prophet never hit a servant, wife, or a woman, and it was reported by Aisha.
Okay, well, Aisha also reported that Muhammad struck her in the chest and caused her pain. So there's at least a contradiction. At least a contradiction in your Sahih Hadith literature. We got Bukhari and Muslim, who are both saying slightly different things. Um,
Okay.
so so yeah,
This is why I rely always on the Holy Quran,
right. So
and
striking a
I
woman is
don't.
not a problem in the Quran. So
You know, okay, I'm not going to argue. Uh, UNWomen.org, 736 million women, 1 in 3, they was murdered. This is UNWomen.org.
1 out of every 3 women are murdered.
Yeah, this is what it says.
I
736 women, uh, 736 million women. That means 1 in 3 there's violent against them. Anyway,
where is this?
UNWomen.org.
I know,
You
but they're
can check
talking
it
about a
later on.
country or something.
Yeah.
They're not talking about the U.S. I can assure you that I've got many sisters and none of them have been murdered. Like
Okay.
one out
Fair
of
enough.
three. I feel like maybe you're just misreading it, everybody.
Maybe, but
Um,
anyway, anybody can check on
right. So
the internet and
what does
see.
that have to do with Islam? What
You
does
know
that
what?
have to do with Muslims? And I've got
Look,
some statistics I can share
yeah,
too. But
very
go
good.
ahead.
What it show uh, in Muslim where Sharia law is applied, the rate of crime they are much less than other country where people's law are on. For example, uh, very sorry. Uh, we can see the rate of violent crime uh, uh, and where
Against
Sharia
women?
law against women and against other,
Okay.
they are much less than other. For example, let's say I live in London. Here, for example, there's no Sharia law. The law of United Kingdom. There's a lot of young people. They are stabbing each other, and there's over 500 between 14 years old and 18 years old being murdered by stabbing. This you don't find it in Saudi, because if somebody kills somebody else, they will bring him uh, and they will execute him in front of everyone. And because uh, it's like in the Old Testament, tooth for a tooth, eye for the eye, life for a life. And this is law of God. It's not law of man. And I don't, you know, maybe we find it harsh that the law of God harsh, but it prevent a lot of lose of life on earth. And you know what's going on around globally. Women are treated as sexual object for advert or for anything, and women are really abused somehow by uh, uh, becoming they have to work, they have to look after the children, they have to look after their husband, they have to cook, they have to clean, and there's no equality even in our modern life. While the women they should be, in my opinion, looking after the family, looking after the house, and the man, he should be the breadwinner and looking after his wife and the children and family, and provide them with the best he can. Up to you.
Okay. Yeah, buddy, we got to get better at staying focused. You went here, there, up, over, left,
I'm
right.
sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
We just got to get better at it. We just got to get better at it.
Okay.
All right.
I
So, can I address something?
Yeah, please.
All right. So, statistics, I think, are important to be paying attention to. Um, and right now, the topic, right, it needs to be relevant to the topic, right? So, we're talking about Christianity and Islam, and we're talking
Okay.
about the treatment of women. Those are
Okay.
those are the topics.
Okay.
Um, Rape, I think, would be a topic that would have
Okay.
been interesting. Violent, like domestic abuse towards women, that would have been a relevant statistic
Okay.
for us to pay attention to. I think just general violent crime, like I don't know how that applies necessarily. In a roundabout way, if it's related to women, it could apply, right? But then at the same time, most Western nations are, yes, founded on Christian values, but
Okay.
they don't maintain the
Okay.
Christian values. Does that make sense?
It makes
Whereas
sense. Yeah.
whereas I would go so far as to say, and this is just my opinion, and if you hold a different opinion, I won't argue with you about it. I would say a Muslim majority country, their laws are very much still founded in Islam. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, so the Western world is moving away from a lot of the Christian moral values. The
Okay.
Muslim world, I think, is still slightly moving away, but mostly staying conservative towards the Muslim world
Which
values.
one you prefer? Which one you prefer?
I prefer freedom.
Yeah, can you explain to me what kind of freedom you would accept from a woman?
I don't understand what you
What
mean.
what I'm saying is, as you said, Muslim country, they still conservative and still abide by the law of God, and they are still obedient and submissive
Hmm.
to their husband and to their God, which I guess the Bible teaches the same. But as you mentioned, that in Christian world, the Christian actually they are becoming loose of attachment with the law of God and become more free.
Correct.
And this is, do you think this is good that women become free to do whatever they like, and anybody can take advantage of them by using them for advert, by using them for porn industry, by using them as a sex slave, and which is I find odd, you know?
Yes. I those things happen in Pakistan. I know for sure. Yeah, yeah. The rest of the countries I'm not aware of. What I believe about freedom, about having the right to choose that, is that it exposes the true heart of the person.
Okay,
I could put a lady in a cage, right?
yeah,
Prevent her from doing all of her heart's desires, but Christ says that we are judged not just in deeds but also in what we desire to do.
okay,
Right? If you look at a
okay,
woman with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery. So I believe that you should allow people to express themselves in the way that they want to, so far as it doesn't cause personal harm to others.
okay,
Um, and I believe that if you preach to them the gospel and you teach them about how to love God and how God loves them, that gives them the opportunity to choose God and doesn't
okay,
confine them in a corner to where they have to.
okay. What you are implying to that women, because of Islamic tradition and law, they are more confined and put in the corner, as you put it, a cage, as you are saying that is like domestic violence against them, while
That's not violence, that's oppression.
but the way you put it, that in the Western world, the women, you need to teach them about Christ, and you teach them about Christianity, and love. They will be submissive and obedient to the law. It's something similar. I would like to put through a lot of women, Christian women, they are converting to Islam because they find out that with wearing the hijab, and they are given them as value as women, and they are more honored and respected. And we Muslim, we treat our women as jewels, but we don't like our women to be exposed to whoever, and they can take advantage because sometimes if it depends, as you said, about the person himself. There's some people will be humble and good, and they will be submissive. Some people will be tempted by a lot of worldly life, and they will follow their desire, and it will be disaster for them and for their family. And this is what I'm saying.
But
And
that's what
if
their
you
heart
look,
wanted
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, but let me remind you
And
about
that's how they're
something.
going to
Let me
be
remind you.
judged.
Let me remind you about something. If you look at the society of Muslim, which they don't have boyfriend and girlfriend and something like this, and the women, the girl, when they reach maybe 16, 17, 18, they get married and they have children, and they will be confined for their own family, while in the Western life, the woman, from when she turned almost 10, she start to date, and she start to be have a boyfriend till she become till 30 years. She will have 26 boyfriend. She sleep with everyone according to her desire. She can go as soon as she is 18. She can go out free from her own house, and she can live with her boyfriend, with her. And this is not the way even the Bible teach, because the Bible doesn't allow adultery. Even Jesus, when the woman being caught in adultery, he said, whoever doesn't have sin, let him pick up the first stone. And he teach her to sin no more, and he teach the rest not to sin. But that means he open a new page in her life and teach other to obey by God's law, but it doesn't mean freedom. There should be boundary for freedom for men and women alike, because it doesn't mean that women should respect the law of God and abide, while the man can go out and he can have secret lover, and all of this. So the
Okay, I
you
get
see
your
the
point.
equality.
I get your point. I get your point.
Okay,
So I agree with you that dating aspect of stuff. I'm not as probably conservative necessary as you. I look at successful marriages of people I know they actually got married younger and they stay together, as opposed to people who get married later in life and they have a harder time staying together because they've had multiple partners. Okay.
yeah.
There's nowhere in the Bible that it says that you should date and you should date multiple partners and you should have multiple sexual partners and that you should be like you're making a comparison that I don't think is relevant necessarily to the topic of our conversation. One thing I have to say this, I've been trying to say this for like 30 minutes. So we're talking about statistics and how they're relevant to this discussion, right?
Okay,
So in the WEF Global Gender Gap Index of 2015, it lists the top 15 worst countries for women. Okay.
okay,
Yemen, number one, Pakistan, Syria, Chad, Iran, Jordan, Morocco, Lebanon, Egypt, Mali, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Ivory Coast, Mauritania, sorry if I mispronounced that, in Guinea. Um, Languages are different. Government is different. Region is different. The one common thing about the majority is, what do you think?
what I think, there's a lot of aspect help and this degradation of women in this country you have mentioned. One, ignorance. Second, tradition. Third, culture. Fourth, poverty. And colonize most of this country were colonized by Western, and when they have their independence, uh, people who are ruling this country due to uh, uh, self uh, greed and of power, they are looking after themselves, and the people are suffering. And by the way, there's a lot of those countries you mentioned is Islamic country. Most of them, even they are not abiding by the teaching of Islam, and they have ill knowledge about uh, uh, what Islam teach regarding women. And I agree with you, and it saddened me that those figures and what's happening in Yemen. In Yemen, we know that UN, whenever people are getting killed, and there's maybe millions of children are dying of hunger, UN and the rest of the Western wealthy world, they are not, they are only condemned, and they don't do anything to help. While the Western country, this is politics now, the Western country, they see in each country where they have strategic interest, they put their hand on and leave the people to fight between themselves, feeding a group against another group, and this is we end up with corruption all around the world. And as you can see, when Iraq, when after the invasion of the United States against Iraq, United States, they put their hand on the oil industry, and they demolish all other, while people get killed, people become refugee, and this is it's like there is a plan for those countries never to recover from the poverty, from the ignorance, from the tradition, from the culture. And I am against that.
Okay, so let's thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you are against that. Let's do with it's already been almost an hour and a half. Let's just do a 5 minute kind of closing per person. Does that sound cool?
Okay,
Would you like to go first or last?
I go last
You go
because
last.
I just shut my mouth.
You go grab a drink of water, will you? All right, so I've got my timer. We got 5 minutes on the timer. I'm going to start it. Hopefully, I can get done a little bit early. So, first of all, Yahya, thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for having this conversation. I'm not sure we got a whole lot accomplished, but we did at least bring up some ideas that I think are worth exploring a little bit more. At the very beginning, I wanted to talk about and I wanted to establish what was right, what was wrong, and then we could talk about whether or not the Bible offends against this or the Quran offends against this, and then yeah, we could both walk away as Buddhists or atheists or whatever, right? If we both decide it's wrong that we do this, and if our religion teaches us to do this, if we're honest people and we're honest to ourselves, we will walk away from whatever it is that it teaches, right? So you have I truly believe that you have a good heart and you follow what you believe is right, and I really think you have on blinders. I think you see the good sounding things that are in Islam, and then when there's the bad thing, you're kind of like it's off here in the periphery, and then and it's just confirmation bias. I have it as well. We have to recognize our own confirmation bias and work to overcome those biases, right? But I think you just have a tendency of looking away from it. People from the outside were not emotionally attached to Islam. We're not emotionally attached. We didn't grow up in that religion. We didn't take our shahada, right? So we just look at it from a more objective standpoint. So when we read 434 and it says, if you fear disobedience, admonish them, banish them to the couch, and beat them. Right? We go, that's not right. That's abuse on every single level, and the fact that it's fear disobedience, and that's not even that they have actually been disobedient. It's a paranoia. So I know some men who become very, very paranoid of their woman and think, oh, their woman's stepping out on them, cheating on them, all those types of things. I find those things to be very bad. A thing I didn't quite get to, and I'm not going to expound upon it too much, Yahya, but I know you might want to do a video on it or something a little bit later. I don't like this debate tactic where you just start making all kinds of assertions at the end so the other person can't respond. So I'm not doing this as that. I just want to bring it up so we can have further discussions about it. Um, Quran 4:23 and 24, right, goes into adultery, right? This is adultery, that's adultery, this is legal sex, this is illegal sex, blah, 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 right? And then we get to a point where it says, all adultery is illegal except for women who are married that your right hand possesses, right? And we understand that phrase to mean they're your slave or servant or something like that, meaning they can be married and you can still have sex with them. Um, whether or not they want to. I don't see anywhere in here says that they want to or not. Another thing that I wanted to discuss today was women and their intelligence. Okay, so it talks about in the Quran, I think 228, that to call a witness, right? Two witnesses of men, right, and then a woman is equal to half that of a man. So a woman is half that of a man, and then we go to the corresponding hadith, and it's a story about Muhammad passing by a woman, says, "Give alms," blah blah blah. Did you know the majority of hell is filled with you, women? Okay, and they were like, "Why?" That's a good question, right? And then he says, "Because you curse frequently, you're ungrateful to your husbands, and I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you." By the way, this is Sahih Bukhari Hadith number 304. The women kind of object to it. They're like, "What is deficient in intelligence, religion?" He says, "Is it not evidence that two women equal to one witness as a man?" And then they're like, "How that's how they're not intelligent?" And then Allah blames them for their menstrual cycles as why they're deficient in religion. We talked about Khadijah, who was a free woman, a rich woman, a good leader, and all of that stuff was happening before Islam started. After Islam, we read about wife beating, these types of things, which bothers me quite a bit. We read about how a woman is brought before Allah, or sorry, before Muhammad, whose wife had beaten her so bad that her skin was as green as a scarf, and he completely ignores that aspect and basically sends her back home with the husband, to where she could get that whatever beating, right? We learned that Aisha was hit, and I've got here about 10 seconds. And then we can talk about why men can marry up to four women, but a woman can only marry one man. It just seems like a little bit of a dichotomy. So here's my beautiful song. I will leave it at that. So don't feel like you have to answer all of those things. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
Just wanted to
I'm not
bring them
going
up.
to answer all of that, but I wish you have mentioned some of this point
I was
before
trying to. You
talk.
kept talking, dude.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Maybe we do another one another time. Regarding the Quran contain 6,236 verses, and the whole Quran you will find only beaten women, and the chapter you mentioned for 34, nowhere else. Where if you collect all the verses in the Quran about the treatment of women, you will come to conclusions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trying to convey the message that women are your equal partner and treat them in a kind way as you are entrusted and with his permission with them. And the Prophet, peace upon him, I know you rely on some hadith, which I acknowledge the positive and negative of hadith. And that's why I always compare the hadith to accept if it go along the Holy Quran or not. I reject so many hadith because sometimes I find to the same narrator, for example, Bukhari, he's saying something, and there's another hadith for the same narrator saying hadith contradicted. And the same apply for Muslim as well. That's why I acknowledge both hadiths. I might take one and reject the other according to the agreement with the Quran. Regarding two witnesses, I mentioned the verse and the Quran. It mentions that if a one woman have forget about to about something as a witness, the other one might remind her. So sometimes, to be honest, my wife, she reminds me about everything, and I am more deficient and intellectually than my wife. And my wife, she have more brains than I do. She always remind me, and she always tell me, you have a mosquito brain. So we men and women, sometimes women are more intelligent and than us, and very lot of subject. Maybe we are not aware because we are male, but they think about the small and the big. And this is, I disagree that women are deficient, but the deficiency here, talking by about the Prophet, that when they have their period for, let's say, 1 week, they are restricted to perform that salat and their prayer, and from this kind they are not like a man, because a man, he doesn't have a period, he doesn't have anything. If even he have let's say intercourse, he go and wash himself and he is ready to pray anytime. But women cannot be ready to pray anytime because of the stream of blood. uh, Majority and women and hell, uh, we need to see why he's saying that, because uh, to be honest, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe, as you said, I might be able to do video about it, but uh, I just want to remind you, like when I look into women and the Bible and the Old Testament, I have lot of references which degrade women than men. Even Jesus, his apostle were was 12 men. Even when the woman, the only woman, Maria Magdalena, when she came to seek him after the resurrection, and she tried to touch him, he shouted at her, "Don't touch me! I didn't ascend to my father and your father." And he told her not to touch him. But when he appeared to his apostle, he told them, "Touch me," and he kissed them and he ate with them, and he treated Maria Magdalena in a very different way. According to your Bible, he removed seven demons of her, and she was the only woman who was really caring for his body after, and I find it odd, because what can I say anyway? I would like to finish with I would invite everyone to read the Quran, to reflect about the Quran, to read the Bible, and to reflect about the Bible, compare with the two teaching, and seek the truth by seeking God guidance, and be humble servant. And I invite everyone to humble themselves to God, to seek the truth. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, AT, for giving me the platform to talk to you. Because, by the way, almost 17 Christian apologists have concealed, delete, and blocked me on their channel. Even I try to, as much as possible, to communicate with so many in a respectful way, but I feel that I'm being concealed and blocked, and which make me really frustrated. And thank you for this opportunity. And hopefully, by the end of this month, we can arrange a couple of topics we can talk about. And have a lovely day, lovely evening. And thank you, everybody.
All right, yeah, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, you're just FYI, I'm gonna jump off here. Got to get to the kids, so I won't be able to stay on after this. But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Yahya, for being here, guys. Please feel free to comment down in the comments section. Yahya likes to prowl around there like a Muslim lion, roaring at everybody. So much more friendly live, and you're very aggressive on the on the keyboard there. But anyway, guys, if you got questions, if you got whatever, post them on there. We'll be more than happy to answer them and argue with each other on that. So hope everybody has a great night. Yahya, thank you again so much. God bless everyone. Have a good one.
God bless. Thank you very much.